is I'm going to have you go into the Q&A. And if there is a particular stock that you would like to see me put in, I will take 20 of them. So I'll let you type in and I'll take the first 20 that show up and I'll plug them into a chart one by one. While you're doing that, I'm just going to go stretch my back for a second. All right, make a note of these. So you guys get to get up, walk around. I'm stuck in a chair. Okay. So it looks like I've got about 70. It's not your fault. So I'm going to do as I suggested. I'm going to take the first 20. Okay. So I've got WDC. And what I'm going to be looking for, I'm going to be evaluating these as potential trades. And if I see a potential trade, I'm going to tell you about it. GSK. If you give me more than one, I'm just going to take the first one. Just, help as many people as I can. USO. Pfizer. Altria Group. Train. Well, we've looked at the SPY a couple of times, so I'm going to look at stuff we haven't looked at. Raytheon, well, now they're RTX, it used to be Raytheon. Microsoft, SPGI, LW. I don't know what that is. AT&T, Coca-Cola, Walgreens. Let's see how many I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. OKE, I got. WM, 16. Intel, 17. FedEx, 18. Form, no idea what that is. Totally okay. And Tesla. You know what's interesting? As you might imagine, not long ago, Tesla was number one every single day, right? That I'd look at stocks. Everybody wanted Tesla, Tesla, Tesla. Now it's kind of an afterthought. It just shows you, and that's why the idea of, buying stocks, holding them forever, things are in demand and then they go out of style. And you got to stick with what's in, demand. So as I'm going to go through these, I will make some notes on those where I feel like there's a potential trade that fits some of the strategies that I'll be using after lunch. And then we'll come back to them. So this is a lot of fun. Hopefully you've given me some good stuff to work off of. WDC, Western Digital. Okay, very interesting chart. So the first thing I notice is how well it obeys the 50-day moving average. Look at this. When it was above, oh, it was beautiful. Crawls below, it's a train wreck. Right here, that E stands for earnings. And now the stock, ever since that earnings, has been moving higher. MACD turned green. It got oversold, right? And the MACD turns, that's bullish. And now it has crossed above the moving average. So I would look at this for a potential call option. I would look at this for a covered call. Both of those would be appropriate. And it's not overbought. That is a really classic stock that fell way out of favor and has moved higher ever since. You kind of had a double bottom right here. And we're not really faced with any short-term resistance. We couldn't have started with a more perfect stock for us to be able to engage in a couple of trades. Now, if I were going to do why don't I just do this now on the call side? If I were going to do a call option on this, I would do an in the money. There's nothing that indicates that this is going to make a big spurt. It just looks like it's grinding higher. So if you weren't here yesterday, let me show you what that looks like, because you may want to copy this. So for in the money, how far out do we go? 30 to 45 days. By the way, the one thing I'm not going to do on these, if this were a real trade, I'd be checking earnings. Okay, no problem. Has earnings 44 days from now. So I'm going to pick an expiration of less than 44, but I would have done that anyway. So I'm going to go out 34 days. And we want a delta of what? Delta of 80. So I'm going to get as close as I can. Close as I can get is 79.44. It's going to cost me about $8 a share, or 800 a contract. So I'm going to do 10 because I'm going to put it into my virtual account. And most trades that I do are 10,000. So I want to keep that consistent. So I'm going to have to switch over to my virtual account here to do this. So on the trade, we see the bid price, 765. That's what they want to pay us if we're selling. The ask price is 820. That's what they want us to pay. And my initial is always to go in at the mid between the bid and the ask. So that would be $7.92 per share, $792 per contract. This is a trade that I would take with my own money. By the way, just for your own edification, what I do, it's why I do this the way that I do it, because on Monday, I will come right back down to this list. That's what I'm going to do. And then pull these back up on the chart on Monday. And if my outlook is the same, I'll put these trades on. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you that's what I will do. That's why I kind of go through this meticulously. So buy to open WDC, October 25th, 2024, 60 strike calls. If I make a lot of money on this, my thanks in advance to whoever put that in. And there you have it. C'est facile, n'est-ce pas? Simple. But the only thing I remember from 2 years of French. Great. Good way to start. Okay, GSK. All right, so we got a big rounded top. That's bearish. That's the first thing that jumped out to me. We have just crossed below the 50-day moving average. That's bearish. MACD is red. That's bearish. RSI is pointing down. That's bearish. OBV is pointing down. That's bearish. Now, my inclination is to go take a bearish trade. The problem that I've got with that is we're in a bullish market, but I'm going to take a bearish trade anyway. I'm just telling you in real life, I probably wouldn't do it for that reason and for another reason. So I've kind of marked where this stock is now. That's not really any real level of, I mean, I would consider the real support level to probably be down here at about 38. The stock is at 40. So what are we looking at? Maybe a 2-point drop before you hit support. Not worth it for a trade. But I'm definitely at the moment bearish on this. No question. Okay. All right. AMD. This is an interesting chart, and it's going to be a really good example of something that I talked about previously. So below the moving average was ugly, rounded top, crossed below, MACD turned red, bearish, 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 bearish. And then, it eked its way above the 50-day, and then it went bearish again. And now it's moving higher. The MACD has turned green. RSI is pointed up. OBV is kind of sideways at the moment. So could you make a case for a bullish trade? You could, except for one thing. This is why I always do this little exercise. Okay, so this is where the stock is right now. And what are we running up against? A very significant resistance level that this topped out at, well, let me get rid of the line. At 157.81. Now we're at 155. We're like $1.50 away from hitting this resistance level. And then on top of that, we got a whole bunch of noise over here, right? So I would not be putting a call option on this. Tell you what I might be inclined to do is a spread trade. It's too far away. We're not going to get anything for it. So right now in AMD would be a pass. I wouldn't put a new trade on this. And overall, it's been drifting lower. The highs are getting lower. It's definitely in a breakout pattern. Let me just show you. Okay. There are the highs. Here are the lows. All right, there's that wedge shaped. So we would expect, so I would put this on a watch. I'm just writing watch for my own self. You guys should be doing the same thing at home. I'm going to watch to see if we get a break either above that level or a break below this level. And at that point, then we got something to talk about. Let's give them something to talk about. All right, AMD, USO. So this is oil. So if we go from kind of top to bottom, the lows are getting lower, the highs are getting lower. It's trying to crawl its way back up. The MACD has turned green. RSI is moving up. Little move up here. You're facing a double top right here. So this is going to act differently than a stock. This is going to be all based on what? Oil prices. So there's definitely some momentum. If I had to bet, there's more up momentum than down momentum. Are we at a situation where I would be looking at this ETF? No. When oil was in the 60s, then we'd look at it. So, maybe an entry right in here where the MACD just turned, but it wasn't a big move. From there, it's gone from about 70 to 73. The time that I buy call options on USO is when I feel like oil prices are depressed and moving higher at 72. They're not depressed. See that? 72.92. That is the price of a barrel of oil. My bet would be higher rather than lower, but there's not enough upside in it to capture my fancy. All right, Pfizer. Kind of a slow, steady grind, hanging on to the 50-day moving average. Now, given the fact that the 50-day moving average is sloping up, I'm looking at pretty good support down here. What price is that? At about 28.50. I'm going to put Pfizer down for a call spread. Tell you what else might make sense on this. This would be a good stock for a covered call. Something that just grinds up. What do you see right here, by the way? Now, let me get rid of that line. Right here, there's a double top, right? But this thing is just chasing the 50-day. It gets a little momentum and goes, no, where's my mama? And it's just hanging on to mom. So I'm going to predict it'll continue to hang on to mom. And when we get to call spreads, I'll show you if we can make any money off of that. And when we get to covered calls, it's a potential covered call opportunity. So thanks for whoever gave us that one. All right, here's the Altria Group. Philip Morris, tobacco. This will pay a dividend. Is typically a good stock for a covered call. My concern is, look at how that MACD is really bearish. So what happened is in here, all of these trades, all this movement can be attributed to people worrying about a recession and going defensive, which made complete sense. Now that people are starting to feel a little better about things and the Fed has cut and came out and said, hey, we think the economy is in really good shape. They've been moving out of this back into tech. We are below the moving average, the MACD now. What is the current trend line on this? So this was, yeah, look at that. Here's my bet on this. My bet is this is going to bounce off of that trend line, and I'm going to put it on the table for a covered call. Because of this, the most powerful of all the things that we look at and that trump everything are trend lines. You watch Altria bounce off of this trend line. Put it on your list to watch next week. All right. Having some fun now. Steve Martin. Train Technologies. Woo! Chicka, chicka, doot, doot. Look at that. Bounced off of the moving average. Bounced. How many times have we seen this? Bounced. Hey, maybe the stuff this guy's teaching us has some real world validity. Maybe. Okay, so when I can't see any resistance, what do? I'm going to expand the chart to a year. Still don't have any resistance. This stock's off and running. So trade that I would take on this would be a call option. And this one, you could either go in the money or out of the money. I'd be more likely to go in the money. And the reason is I don't have a fresh kind of cross. I go out of the money when I get a fresh cross here and a fresh cross on the MACD. This one's been running a while. So I would either do a call and or a covered call. But on the call, I'd go in the money again. So let me do that. This is one of those stocks. I'm not going to do covered calls on it. It does not have weekly options. Notice the days to expiration, 27, 50, there's no 7/14, right? So I want to do covered calls weekly, so I can't do it, but I could buy in the money. But the problem is I either go out 27 days or 55. I would choose 27. A little shorter than I would normally take. Delta of 80, I've got Delta 79. Now, this is going to be expensive. It's an expensive stock, and you're going in the money. So this isn't going to be for all of you. So the mid between the bid and the ask is 29 bucks a share. This is 2,900 per contract. So I'm going to do 3 contracts. Okay, go back to the mid. Give you a lunch break here in a bit. And that trade has been placed, and we'll nestle it in right next to Western Digital. And we continue our journey. Next one is RTX. See old Raytheon, which does well when we're selling a bunch of missiles and things of that nature, which we have been doing. Why? Ukraine. So in the last 6 months, we've gone from 95 to 118. Looks like we kind of peaked right here, doesn't it? Notice how the MACD was turning red during this period, almost like a precursor. Now we are still above our 50-day moving average, and the 50-day is still sloping up. If I were going to bet, I bet this 50-day holds. There's no guarantee. We did have this trend going. Yeah, we're sitting right on the trend line and the 50-day. So the real question with this stock is, and we'll have to wait to see. Notice the MACD is red. So I'm not going to be putting on a bullish trade with a red MACD. The real question is, will this level hold? We're going to stay above the trend line and the 50-day, the 50 days at 115. So this is kind of sit back and watch for the moment. Okay. Awesome. Microsoft. So if we look at the trend on Microsoft, the near-term trend, the lows are getting higher, and the highs also appear to be getting higher. So that's kind of nice. We are above the 50-day. The 50-day is sloping down. Microsoft hit a big new high up here, and then look at how the MACD turned. I bet it was overbought. It sure was. Then it got oversold, and then the MACD turned green, and it moved up, came down, moved up, crossed above, and now it just looks kind of crunchy. I'm more bullish than bearish on it, but would I be putting on any kind of I'm certainly not buying a call option at this point based on its most recent movement. I do covered calls on Microsoft. Um, it's not ideal. You really got to manage it. It's not one where you can be lazy. I would just be in a kind of a wait and see on Microsoft at this point. Yeah. All right. I'll do one more and then I've got the balance of them we'll do when we come back from lunch. SPGI. We've already found some good stuff though. Let me look at something. Capital markets. Yeah. So we've gone from 4.25 to 5.25. It's a very expensive stock. You could either do on this an in the money call. It would also be great if you got big money to do a covered call on it. It's going to take $52,000 to buy 100 shares. And I'll bet they don't have weekly options. No, they do. So we'll revisit this on the covered call side. Great. Okay. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great. I got 10 of them done. We'll do 10 more after lunch. Now, listen, at lunchtime, don't start flooding me with questions because we're going to be jumping back into this. So I know I say that and it probably doesn't matter, and that's okay. Not the end of the world, but I'm not going to be jumping into Q&A when I come back. I'm going to be jumping into these 10 stocks. What a great morning. I mean, do you feel, as you're looking at your notes, please tell me you're taking notes. As you're looking at your notes, man, there should be bullet point after bullet point after bullet point that you've captured from this morning, you know, assuming you were in there with me and paying close attention. So in any event, I'm gonna give you a 45-minute break for lunch, clear out your noggin a little bit, and we'll come back and pick up on these next 10 stocks after lunch. Great job this morning. See you in 45. Bon appetit. All right, welcome back. Hope y'all had a good lunch. So we are going to pick up from where we left off. So we had looked at SPGI and now LW. Lamb Weston Holdings. Very interesting. See this earnings announcement right here? Stock dropped, then just went sideways. Next earnings announcement, stock dropped. Since then, we have moved sideways. I don't see anything in that that encourages me at all. There's the possibility that we could try to fill this gap. But you know, I'm looking here. So we got into oversold territory. We have crossed above the moving average, but look at that moving average and the slope is down. So as I sort of look at that in its totality, there isn't anything I'd be doing with this stock right now. All right. AT&T. I already know what I'd be doing with this stock because I'm doing it, and that is covered calls. So, you know, the stock's just been grinding up since it was at 17. Now it's at 21. And look at the 50-day moving average sloping up. The MACD is definitely weakening. The stock was overbought. Um, it doesn't make big moves to the downside. You know, when it comes down, it bounces, comes down, bounces. Um, so for AT&T, I've got covered calls. We will look at that when we are covering our covered call section. Next one on the list, Coca-Cola. I already know what I'd do with this one. That is another potential covered call. Again, just another one of those stocks that just grinds up. Had a really nice day on Friday. Very strong volume. You know, again, if we were going to draw a lower trend line here, sitting right on it. So definitely bullish, no big surprises here. The MACD did turn red right in here, but not much of a drop at all. The on balance volume has been strong. So, yeah, that is just a straight covered call opportunity. Western Alliance, good looking chart. 6 months ago, we're at 62. Now we're at 87. We are basically at an all-time high. Let me just check a 1 year because I don't see any resistance. There is no resistance. That would be another really solid in the money call option. Trend is clearly up. MACD, it's in good shape. RSI going up. And this is interesting. OBV on this, I don't know what happened here, sort of fell off a cliff. I don't know why. Oh, it's because of this. Yeah, just this one day. What would an in the money look like on this? And it's a less expensive stock. So you'll notice they do not have weekly options. So we wouldn't do covered calls on this. But if you went out 27 days, delta of 80, closest I can get is 81. So this is going to be about $9 a share or 900 a contract. So if we go to the mid, gets us down to 875. So buy to open, I'm doing 10 contracts. October 18th is the expiration, 27 days. And we are going to offer 875. When you put a trade in on the weekend, what happens is that trade gets queued up and then entered when the market opens Monday morning. I always would double check to make sure I'm still happy with that trade. But now we have 3 in our virtual trading account so far. All right, OKE. Nice. 6 months ago, we're at 79. Now we're at 93. Has pretty much lived above its 50-day, rolling over a bit at the moment, but like most stocks, it's going to do that. I always like to look, you know, when it drops, is it a huge drop? It hasn't been. The MACD is pretty flat. You know, it's green, not real green. Relative strength index kind of moving sideways, OBV. Um, Everything about that looks nice and bullish. $93 stock. That'd be a decent candidate for a covered call. Also a candidate for a spread trade. So I'm going to look at that later on as a call spread. And I think that might end up being a very appropriate stock for that. So that'll come in handy. All right. Waste management. Wow. Look at the last earnings. How bad could they have missed on earnings when you consider what they are? I mean, it's a waste management company. 6 months ago, they were at 211. Today, they're at 204. So while the market's been moving up, this has actually dropped a bit. We are trading below our 50-day moving average. Mostly it's a sideways kind of moving stock. If I were going to do anything with this, it'd be a covered call, but it wouldn't be my first choice. I feel like, where is drop to about 201? Where's this? So I'm going to look at this as a potential spread trade with, okay, we'll come back to that one. Intel. Intel has just, well, technology stocks have rocked. Intel just hasn't done much. I mean, 6 months ago, the stock was at 42. Today it's at 21. It's lost half of its value. But I'll tell you what I would be comfortable doing on Intel. Couple of things. With the price being this low, I would consider it for a covered call. I just don't see it. So it had this bad earnings and it's really sort of stabilized. I'm also going to look at this as a call spread. We're going to be learning about those. That'll be our last strategy. I think there's some opportunity now with Intel. I think the worst looks like it's over based on the chart. The MACD is green, RSI is moving up, OBV is moving up. There's a lot of reason to believe that this is going higher. And I would entertain an in the money call option on this as well. So let's put that into our virtual account. Oops, wrong one. So let's go out 34 days. Delta 80. See, I haven't seen any that look like they're getting ready to break out where I would have gone out of the money yet. Closest I can get is 85. So this is going to run $380 per contract. So it's pretty cheap. I'm going to do 30. There's a lot of good stuff. Hopefully you're writing all these down. So buy to open the October 25th, 19 strike call. The mid is 311. So there's 4 trades in there. And we're not done. All right, FedEx. FedEx just did earnings. Guess how that worked out for them? So what do you do with a stock like this? Just announced earnings, fell a whole bunch. Answer is nothing. You wait. So if we go down, let me see where we're sitting right now. So it's down near a former level. My guess is that that's going to end up being new support, but we're going to wait 3 or 4 days, sort of see how that shakes out. If I had to guess, fortunately, we don't have to guess. The worst is over, and I think we'll probably start to see some recovery on this based on these numbers here. We could also do a spread trade on this down to about 245. I like that a lot too. Call spread. I'll show you what that looks like. So now I think we've got 3 spread trade opportunities. So we'll be putting those into our virtual account when we get there. Form factor. I have no idea what this is. Semiconductors. Huh. Okay. Doesn't look like I've missed a whole lot, huh? Crossed below the 50 over here at 59. Now it's at 43. Got all the way down to 37, kind of recovered, fell off. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this. And if you had asked me, where do I think that stock's going? Clueless. I have no idea. All right. And then Tesla. Tesla's been trying to stage a comeback. It had a lot of support down here, like 175, moved way up, 265, back down around 190, and it's been grinding higher. Um, I'm worried about these levels it could be running into. So that's where we are right now at 238. I don't think I would be inclined to do anything on Tesla at the moment. So out of these stocks, Western Digital, we had a call and a covered call. Put AMD on the watch. Pfizer, call spread and covered call. Altria Group, covered call. Train, a call and a covered call. SPGI, a call and a covered call. Covered call on AT&T. Coke, call spread on OKE. I'll have to show that to you when we get to call spreads. And on Waste Management, Intel. We have a call spread also on FedEx. So several of these stocks had some possibility. Now, before I leave this section, because we've got to get into some of these other strategies. Otherwise, class is going to end on us. I want to try something with you, which means I want to show you something. So when I go shopping, and there's a number of different ways that I will shop for trades. In this market, I'm looking exclusively for bullish trades. So I mentioned to you, we could take a look at, let me go into the bullish screener where I'm bearish right now, and kind of scroll over these symbols and see if anything looks interesting. I'm going to take a look at that. Bank of America, doing covered calls on it. Baker Hughes. I'm going to put these into the chart and take a peek. Just looking for things that appear, CCK, that looks good. So we know the fundamentals on these are good. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the list. Seeing if any of them look like they might be kind of breaking out. IBN. I'm looking for some more candidates for you. It's hitting up against. Look at Target. So I'm going to plug in a couple of these, and I'm going to show you something else that I do on FinViz as well, looking for candidates. I'm not going to do a big analysis. I'm going to go kind of quick on these in the interest of time. So that looked like it was breaking out and then followed by a drop of 2.83. I don't know what happened there, but it started running into all this noise up here that was resistance. So again, that's why you don't take trades right in front of resistance. BKR, Baker Hughes. Oh, no. I'm hoping to find, well, this is Crown Holdings, CCK. Make a note of that. You could do an in the money call here. So let's do it. Yeah, they've only got monthlies, which works okay for in the money. So I go 10 contracts, put this into, oh, what am I doing? Not sure what I was doing on that. Yeah, okay. Options, monthlies only. I'm going out 27 days and I'll do 10, hit the trade button this time instead of the back button. You know, the only thing on this, I wouldn't be putting this trade on. Look at that bid ask. The bid is 540, the ask is 920. Way too wide. So we're going to give that one a pass. ETR. That's pretty strong. Yeah. Also, just monthlies. I'm going to put this one on. Another in the money. I'm going to let you take a picture of all these that get loaded up, by the way. One, two, three, four. We got 5 of them there so far. Okay. Let's see if anything else looks interesting. Flex. No, that's coming up. So this is a great example of what I was talking about. Look at that, bumping right up against all this. So it looks terrific. I love all of that. MACD's new, and then it's bumping right up against resistance. So we're going to pass. But the only way to know is to look. This one looked interesting. So this is a bank stock. That's really been taken off. That's a weird looking chart, though. It's $31 stock. I don't know anything about them. Pentair. Okay, so I'm going to give you something to add sort of to your list of things to watch for. Whenever you get a stock that gets real far away from a 50-day moving average like that, there's a really good chance that you're going to get a correction on it. Also notice that the MACD is kind of rolling over a little bit. The RSI is an overbought. And interestingly, all of a sudden, OBV is starting to move down. So all those are little red flags for me. It's made its move. It bounced. All that was great, and it's just gotten uh, a little ahead of its skis. So I wouldn't be doing anything on that. Target. Tell you what I was looking at. Yeah, no, I don't love this. I knew that it was bouncing off its 50-day, but it's got all kind of noise right in here. So one last thing I want to do in looking for potential trades is I'm going to look at the heat map again, and I'm just going to see what's been running for the last week. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to go to weekly, 1 week performance. Meta, we've already looked at. ExxonMobil, great. I'm doing covered calls on that right now. Energy, we've already looked at this. CRM, ServiceNow. I'd really like to find one that looks like it's kind of breaking out. Cisco, where I would consider doing an out of the money. I haven't seen any yet. Oracle. Um, Caterpillar. Well, let's see if we get anything super sexy out of these. So as you can tell, a big part of being an options trader, now we've already identified a whole bunch candidate, but a big part of it is looking at charts. There's ExxonMobil. This is a great stock for covered calls. It's just moving sideways, pays a nice dividend, which will sort of protect your downside. So ExxonMobil, another one for covered calls. I'm doing covered calls on this one right now, so that doesn't come as a surprise to me. CRM, this is Salesforce. It's right at this resistance level. Again, I would need to see this break higher. Other than that, it's in pretty good shape. ServiceNow, boy, that is a rockin'. MACD looks great. OBV looks great. You want to do an out of the money? Here you go. Let's do it on this one. I love this chart. So first thing I'm going to check, because this is what I'm likely to do. When do we have earnings on this one coming up? 32 days. So that's going to force me to go in the money. I want to make this as real as possible. So I want something that expires before 32 days. That'd be 27 days. So I'll go Delta 80, $810 a contract. I love this trade, by the way. So buy to open October 18th, 870 is the strike. And the mid would be 77 dollars and 5 cents. I'm going to scale this back. I was going to do 10. I'll do 1. It's still going to be a $7,700 investment. So this isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, obviously, because of the price of the stock. But if it's in your wheelhouse and it doesn't cost anything to do practice trades, does it? Good. That's what I was looking for, something like that. I got a couple more I'll look at real quick. Cisco. That looks good. And it's only a $50 stock. So MACD is fresh. We're getting a little far away here. Boy, this has a lot of nice momentum. So make a note for Cisco. You could go either in the money or out of the money on that one. So if we went out of the money, well, let me see when earnings is coming up. Not for a while. Yeah, you're good on this. So we could go out. There's 90 days. Do a delta of 20. Closest we can get is, or excuse me, delta 30 is delta 31. That's only $1.07 per share. It's $107 per contract. So I'm going to do 100 of them. So here's the trade, December 20th, 55 strike, call, very low spread on it. That's a really nice looking trade. Again, especially on the out of the monies, when you put these trades on, you got to take a look at them once a day. You got to look at the chart on the underlying to see if you've had a change of heart on it. Well, I guess I've spent all my cash in this, huh? Wait, let me look in my account. This is my virtual account. Yeah, everything's invested. So this account I started 7 years ago with 100,000, and I put trades on during these classes. It's up to 1,423,000. So if you want to know whether these trades I'm putting on are any good, that ought to give you an example as to why I suggest you pay attention to them. Oracle. Kind of moving sideways now. It's made its move, and now it's going straight sideways. Probably wouldn't put anything new on it. And Caterpillar, last one. So here's a great example. See how that was screaming higher? And then look what happened. It got up here at its last level of resistance, and then it's taken a little bit of a step back. So we've identified a ton of trading candidates in that group. Okay, so we're going to shift.